This is Team SPD, and we are with the regional champion of the Minnesota 2020 regionals for speed duels. And if anything goes wrong with this, it's not my fault, because blame him, he's the one that won. And on top of that, we will get into the deck profile and answer some questions. Let's start with, how do you feel about the regionals?
It was a really great event. It was nice to have a good showing, like a lot of different decks to play against. There wasn't a match I played that I didn't enjoy playing against, so it was a really fun time overall.
Okay. And on top of that, do you get ready for the deck profile?
Yeah. So I'm playing a viral infection zombie deck. So to start it out, we'll go with the skill. So you got viral infection. That card's really important. It lets you set up your graveyard to make your plays. It makes Book of Life live really easily. Because you can ditch your zombie, call a monster, make your opponent mill, and then Book of Life is live right away. It also you can mill your opponent's deck down, because this deck can turtle and stall out. So you can deck out your opponent if you need to, but it can also be really aggressive, which is why I like playing it. So very important. For monsters, we'll start. I have one copy of Vampire Lord. I would never not play that card because it's my favorite card in the game. I think he looks really good as an ultra rare, and he's actually got some good effects too. He's 2,000 attack, so he's nothing to laugh at. He's level 5, so you can tribute summon him. You know, if you got something that's locked under like Mask of the Accursed or something like that.
Like Spellbinding?
Spellbinding too, yeah. You just can't get it off the board. You don't have Spell or Trap Destruction. Easy tribute to take care of that threat. And then his effect when he deals battle damage, you know, you get to mill your opponent too, so that's always nice. And then if he's destroyed by card effects, he gets to come back during your next standby phase, so he's kind of tough to get rid of unless you attack over him.
That's not bad.
Main monster of the deck, you have 3 Despair from the Dark. This card just does not go away once you get him out. He's 2,800 attack, 3,000 defense, so he's really big. And he's so easy to spam out with Book of Life. You got Haunted Shrines to bring him out. You can tribute summon him with double cost him. He's not as strong or as big as Moth, but once Moth is off the board and in the graveyard, I mean, it's gone. This guy can just keep coming back, so he puts a lot of pressure on your opponent.
And I take it you have cards in there that deal with Moth and stuff?
Yep, yeah, I've got some ways to get around Moth. So.
Oh, okay.
Because Moth is a really big threat, so. We have 3 double cost him, 1,700 beater on a zombie, 1,650 defense is nothing to laugh at either. I mean, he's just good for a normal summon. Double cost in plus Despair from the Dark is over 4K, so if you can get an open board and get those 2, I mean, you can swing for game right there. Use double tributes for Darks, so you can get out Despair from the Dark that way if you need to. And you can bring him back with Zombina as well, which is always nice.
Okay.
We have 2 copies of Zombina. We don't need 3, because 3 gets to be a little clunky. There was a couple times where it's like you open Zombina, but you don't have any targets for its effect in the grave yet, so it kind of sucks. But I mean, Zombina is good for recursion. Bring back your double cost in, and then our next card that I'll get into. So that would be 2 Yomi Ship. Yomi Ship is not a zombie, but it does kind of fit the theme of the deck. I mean, it's the Ship of the Dead, so this card is really good for threat removal. It puts a lot of pressure on your opponent to get rid of it somehow. You can bring it back with Zombina, and then you can repeatedly bring Zombina back with Book of Life on its Shrine. So, you know, Zombina gets destroyed, you bring this back. It's just like a lot of threat removal. It puts a lot of pressure on your opponent. I mean, they have to attack it, so there's ways to play around it, but it's really good, like, just putting the pressure on your opponent to have to get past it. Especially if you get into, like, a mode where you need to stall out. You know, you keep bringing back Zombina, they pop Zombina, you bring out Yomi Ship, they pop Yomi Ship, they lose a monster for it. You do rinse and repeat, so it's a pretty good card.
Was this a last-minute decision with the Yomi Ship, or...?
I mean, I've always kind of played Yomi Ship in the deck. I don't know, I like it as a card. It's a good card, so...
Okay. Always works. Almost seems like it's a staple in almost every deck now.
Yeah, I mean, it's good, especially with Zombina that can bring it back, so... That's it for monsters, so 11 monsters in the deck, right?
3, 6, 9. 11. Yep.
So spells, we just run 3. We got 3 copies of Book of Life. I mean, you need that card. It's zombies, so you can bring back any of your cards, and it will almost always be live because you can use your skill to set up your opponent's grave. So it's really strong.
Okay.
On to traps. We have 2 copies of Haunted Shrine. You don't really need 3. 2 is really strong. Because it's not an aggressive card like Book of Life. Because to activate it, you can't have any monsters on board. But each of these is like 2 revivals in one, because you activate it, you bring back your monster, and then when it's in the grave, you can banish it from the grave on a different turn to get a monster out again. So it's pretty strong, and you can make it live right away too, because you can discard it with viral infection and then banish it right away from the grave to get something out if you need it that turn. So if you don't want to wait, you got options. So it's pretty strong. I mean, I think this card plus Despair from the Dark, this is what's making zombies like top tier right now. So
you need too much revival.
yeah, it's just so hard to get past the board. So 1 copy of Jar of Avarice. It lets you recycle your Book of Life. It lets you recycle Haunted Shrine. It lets you recycle Zombina and Yomi Ship. Your other zombies you might want to be keeping in the grave, but I mean, there's so many good cards to recycle, and some of the other traps I'll get into too. You definitely want to run that card, because again, this deck, it can be really aggressive by spamming out Despair from the Dark, but if you need to, if you're getting like behind in pacing, you can always turtle and stall out, and this will let you just kind of wait and deck out your opponent, because the main deck that I run is 21 cards, plus 4, I mean, that puts you at like, what, 25? So
pretty much.
Yeah. 1 copy of Wild Tornado. I like Wild Tornado for spell trap removal. Like, I don't really need to blow up set cards, but this lets you blow up any face-up cards, so Mask of the Accursed. The Parasite Paranoid, you know, you can pop it and then hope your opponent doesn't have anything in the hand, but it lets you keep going with your plays. And then if it gets destroyed when it's set, you get to pop a card on the field. So you do kind of want to be careful with it, because that can come back to bite you if you don't have anything on your opponent's field that you can blow up, then you have to blow up something on your field. But yeah, I like this card a lot.
How many times did that get popped, that when you didn't have anything on your opponent's side of the field to pop?
Nothing during... it didn't get popped at all during the tournament, actually. But, I mean, that's definitely happened to me before. That's kind of a... You don't want to really set it unless your opponent has something for you to target, so... But I like Wild Tornado a lot.
Okay.
We got 1 copy of Floodgate. That card is pretty good. I used it a couple times during the tournament. It was nice. I used it against Nightmare Sonic Blast. You know, you summon Serpent Knight Dragon. Okay, well, that's going upside down. You know, you can set that card. Then they can't use their skill, which was nice. Good for Swordswoman, too. I used that a couple times against Swordswoman, so, I mean, it's a good card. I don't know that I'd run any more than 1. Maybe in the sideboard or something, but... You got 1 Kunai with Chain. Stops an attack. You can equip it to your card. So this is another thing that can help you get rid of Moth. Like if you have Despair from the Dark only, because you can change their Moth to defense, equip it to your Despair, and now you got enough attack to run over it. So, and then the last trap is Metamorph. So that's another good card for trying to get over Moth, because it's 300 extra attack, plus, you know, when it's attacking, they get half the attack. So another good way to get past Moth if you can get it on board. Because I think that'll let Double Constant run it over too, and like Vampire Lord and stuff.
So this whole deck, I want to say your best matchup would probably be King of the Skull Servant, since it seems like you banish a lot more and you can kind of hurt them and their kings.
Yeah, that I mean, that's always nice to take their key graveyard pieces out of play. I know Terrell was running the version of this deck too, and I was kind of nervous about the mirror because I haven't played the mirror, so I didn't really know how to play against it. But I mean, like, then you can be banishing each other's stuff. I think it'd be kind of a fun match to play, but it didn't happen during the regionals. So, we'll do extra deck just because I didn't run any cards to get to the extra deck, but I mean, you got to run it just to make your opponent think you might have Waking the Dragon. The really only important ones, you got Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, Meteor Black Dragon, Alligator Sword Dragon, because this guy, he can attack direct. I mean, that could be clutch. Very situationally clutch. But
it's only if they control what? Wind, earth, and...
if your opponent controls earth, water, or fire, you can get in there for a direct attack. So, I don't know.
Makes sense.
No reason not to have it in there. And then just a couple of meme cards, Thousand Dragon and Skull Knight.
How come not Arcana Knight?
I didn't know that you could actually summon it with Waking the Dragon because I didn't read the card very well. So, yeah.
Well, now we know.
Yep, that's it. That's exactly why. And then the side deck. I think the side deck is the most important part of the game right now. Like, when you're building your main deck, you want to have, a deck that's well-rounded that can beat any matchup you can think of. Then your side deck's really important to help you give yourself the edge in some of these matches. So, I didn't really know what to expect going in the regional, so I tried to just make it as well-rounded as possible because I think there's a lot of decks that can be threatening in this format. So we've got 1 Possessed Dark Soul, not too bad against Relinquished, and you could steal your opponent's King of the Skull Servant if they're running that. If there was some variant of Enchanted Fitting Room still out there, you can steal their whole board. But so I had 1 of those. One eradicated aerosol because insects are a big threat right now. Yeah, you like that, Jay, don't you?
Yeah.
Then warrior elimination also, because warriors are also a big threat right now.
You just hate me, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, cards are in the game.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, I got to use warrior elimination against 3 swordswomen staring me down. That was kind of fun. That was against Barb. So, yeah. I started with the card and I just let her keep summoning, and she just kept putting them on the board. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good plus card here. So that was fun.
Wow.
1/7 tools. I was afraid of the trap-heavy matchups, especially with Floodgate running around. So, I was like, I could side that in if I need to. I didn't actually use this card. There was one time where I was kind of thinking about it, but then I didn't have enough life left, so, whatever.
That's the bad part about speed duels.
Yeah, and then the last 2 more Wild Tornado, just because, I like the card. It's good against the burn deck because it can pop blast spheres that are equipped. It can pop the masks that are equipped. It's good against any kind of the fish decks that are running around. Yeah, so I mean, it's a good card right now. I had 2 in the side just because sometimes you need that spell trap destruction. I like Wild Tornado just because it also has that added benefit. If they pop it, you can blow up something to theirs too. So.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the deck.
So, of all this, how was the matches?
The matches. My first match, I played a warrior deck that had some burn elements to it. That one I think was a 2-0. There was one point where he started to kind of get advantage back, but then I brought out a Despair from the Dark that I top decked, and I just took it back over. So that one was pretty easy. Then I played Amazons. That one I did actually win pretty handily because game 2 I opened with my warrior elimination, so I got to nuke a field, and then I put Despair from the Dark plus a double cost in and swung for game, so that was good. Match 3 was against Nightmare Sonic Blast. That was a really challenging match because it was hard for me to get past the Serpent Knight. I mean, I can run it over with Despair from the Dark, but it's hard when they have a bunch of Sphere Karibos and Gentlemanders and stuff that keep stopping me, and then it gets popped. So I ended up having to turtle, and that's when I learned, hey, this deck can actually stall out really well. So, that one I think was 2-0. It might have been 2-1. And then my 4th match was up against a burn deck, burn stall. That one was really that was definitely the highlight of the tournament because that one went to game 3. The only reason I won game 3 was because of a very critical misplay. My opponent tried to use half shut on the same turn that they set it instead of keeping it in their hand. If they had done that, I would have lost for sure because I only had 100 life points left at the end of the game. So, but yeah, I mean, all the matches overall were really fun. Got to play a bunch of different decks, so it was a good time.
All right, so out of this whole deck, what would you change if you could?
Ooh, I don't know. I feel like I'd probably leave the main deck as I have it. I think I have it in a way where I really like the consistency of it. I would touch the sideboard up a little bit. Probably bring in a second warrior elimination. Maybe drop the 7 tools. I don't know. It depends on what event I'm playing into. Because locals, I kind of know who I'm playing a little bit. So you can kind of fine tune your side deck for that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I would really change the main deck. I really like the way it is. I'd probably just adjust the side deck a little bit. Something that would help with burn. I'm not quite sure what to try yet. I have some ideas. I know Jeff's been talking about Share the Pain as kind of ways to get past some of that stuff. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that card.
I mean, it only comes down if your opponent has a monster or something. I mean, otherwise...
Plus, you have to tribute one of yours too, so it's you lose the Share the Pain, plus you lose one of your own monsters, so it's a -1.
Ever thought about the double Cyclone Wild Tornado play?
Oh yeah, because I saw that in one of your deck profiles too. I was looking at that too. That could be pretty strong.
Yeah. Okay, so with that said, do you have any closing thoughts, words? We need more regionals, obviously.
Yeah, we do, yeah. And, if you're thinking about getting into speed duels, definitely come check it out. I know, our Minnesota community, very tight-knit, very welcoming. I came back into the game, I don't know, probably 6 months ago now.
Yep.
So I used to play from 2011 to 2014 or so. I was looking to get back in. I didn't even know speed duels were a thing. I walked in and some people were like, hey, you want to try speed duels? I'm like, sure. So they hooked me up with helping me build a deck, and I got to play right away that day. It was fun,
And from there, it
it's been
hooks
going
you.
since then. Yeah.
That works. All right. With that said, this is Team SPD. Give a like, comment how you think about it. Tell me thoughts that you might change for it. And with that, have a good night. Bye.